Don't tell Wardog. Don't tell Wardog. Don't tell Wardog! Oh my god, really? I told you, you couldn't trust Wardog. Thursday afternoon quarterbacks, internet, my name is Peridiam, and welcome to 5 times Survivor Players Destroyed Their Own Games 4.0. Because why not? Look, there's a lot of Survivor to go around. If you haven't seen the previous 3 videos, I will link them below. With this one, we are changing nothing up and covering exactly what the video title says, so let's get to the first destruction. I spoiled it with that intro, but yeah. Chris Underwood, the winner of Season 38, Edge of Extinction, destroys his own game in one fell swoop in episode 3 of the same season. And don't worry, if you haven't seen the season, he does get voted out because of this blunder and still somehow wins. Without any more context, I will let you figure out the rest. So it's episode 3, and Chris is in a tribe of 7, and there are several factions in play. Kelly, Lauren, and Wardog are a trio, David and Rick are a duo, and then you have Big Wendy and her shenanigans with the chickens, which is not a duo, but it may as well be. Chris is surveying the state of the tribe and realizes he fits into many groups. So David and Rick want to vote out Kelly, and they loop in Chris and Wendy. That is 4 out of 7. It should be enough to take her down. And Chris and Wendy are on board. Sounds good. But Chris is also allied with Wardog, and because Chris wants to juggle multiple allegiances that are less loyal to him than others, he decides to, wait for it, tell Wardog about the blind side on Kelly. But Wardog is close to Kelly, and so he goes to David and Rick and is like, look, if you've been following the previous seasons of this show, we should have an understanding of what's about to happen. A tribe swap is imminent. We may as well unify together under one banner and vote out the guy who's playing every side. Yeah, let's vote for Chris. They all just skipped over Wendy, who was hiding their flint and robbing them of eating the chickens, to vote Chris out. That is how bad this move was. So yeah, Chris gets blindsided later that night, and the best part of all this is that the tribe swap was in the next episode, but the division of the tribes ended up keeping Chris's entire tribe intact, except for Wendy, who went to a new tribe. Chris was punching air on the edge. And then Chris won the season. You can't make this stuff up.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really believe in my heart of hearts that if you tell Wardog what we're doing tonight, this entire thing blows apart.
I'm someone who is open with everybody. So my biggest fear is that I burn bridges with some of the relationships I've built out here.
Chris approached me for the second time about keeping options open to take out Wentworth. The problem with that is I trust Wentworth much more than I trust Chris. So I decided maybe it's not Wendy or Wentworth, maybe it's Chris.
Oh crap, Wardog wants to get Chris out because Chris is going after Kelly, which I'm like, oh, I'm glad he doesn't know I've been going after Kelly.
Wardog says that Chris came up to him and told him, get rid of Kelly.
She wasn't ever supposed to know her name was coming up, and now she does, so.
He played himself. We weren't going to approach Wardog.
Yeah.
Third person voted out of Survivor. Chris, that's 4, that's enough. Need to bring me a torch.
On the flip side, a player who was the front runner to win and then botched it at the very end is Brandon Hance from Season 23, South Pacific. I know, Peridiam, did I just hear you say that Brandon was the front runner? Other than Ozzy, who was on Redemption Island, yeah, the jury liked the guy. And at the Final 5, he won immunity and was guaranteed Final 4. Okay, I know, he wasn't because Redemption meant that there was gonna be a second Final 5, but still, he won the necklace and should have been in that second Final 5. The problem was that Brandon had a heavy heart, and an ally of his, Albert, was in hot water. Albert kind of said too much and twisted too many words and got caught lying, and he was targeted to be the next to go once Brandon was immune. Brandon didn't actually know he was the original target, but still, he was immune. He won immunity. It didn't matter. So Brandon decided to make a bold move. He made a deal with Coach that if he gave up the immunity necklace to Albert, Coach would then have no choice but to vote out Sophie, the player Brandon wanted out next. Coach agreed, and then when Brandon gave his necklace to Albert, Coach did the opposite of what he said he would do and voted Brandon out. Similar to Eric in Micronesia, Brandon was safe, guaranteed to see the next round, and then everything went up in flames once he took that necklace off.
I made an agreement with Albert, and I believe that to be 100%. And as long as me, Coach, and Albert stay the course, vote out Sophie will definitely be in control then, for sure, no matter what.
Brandon has it! Brandon wins immunity and reward!
Thank you, Jesus!
You have never promised anyone but me and Coach the final 3, final 2, any of that.
Bro, I have no reason to lie to you about anything.
It's really hard to hear.
It's so gratifying seeing everything with Albert being exposed, because now instead of a nice little blindside, he gets to go out looking even more pathetic than he's looked this whole game.
But you know what? I love Albert. He's my friend. Who am I not to forgive? I'm an imperfect person. I forgive him. If I have to, I'll give Albert my immunity. And Coach will not vote for me. Albert will not vote for me, and I'll vote for Sophie. If I have to, I'll give him my necklace. But I know you'll never vote against me. I want to give my immunity necklace up.
Okay. I just want to set the record straight. A couple of hours ago, Brandon was going to vote for Albert, but then he prayed about it, and he felt like he should give the necklace to Albert.
Is there any part of you that would expect Albert to give that back now?
It's up to him.
Honestly, I don't think he's going home tonight, so I'm not going to give him the necklace back.
Coach is going to do what God wants him to do, and if God wanted him to vote me out, I believe he would.
15th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Brandon.
While we have seen a lot of players ride the middle to success, we've seen several fail too. One of the earliest fence sitters in Survivor to completely blow their game up is Dolly from Season 9 Vanuatu. Dolly was a sheep farmer. She didn't really know what she was getting herself into with Survivor and wasn't cut out for the duplicitous politics of the game. And yet, despite that, her calm nature and peaceful demeanor meant she was the person everyone kinda hovered around. And so, when the tribe was split down the middle, 4 of the younger women versus 4 of the older, Dolly fell right in the middle. Dolly wanted everyone to get along, and she was on everyone's side, but because she originally gravitated toward the younger women, she chose to initially side with them. Julie, who was a part of the younger women, asked her who they should target, and Dolly reluctantly threw out Leanne's name. And really, once Dolly said this and made her straw bed, she should have just laid in it and kept her mouth shut. But then the older women probed her and she couldn't help herself. She told Amy and Scout that she was voting for Leanne for no real reason. I mean, strategy, kind of, but it's tough to call it that when you don't really know why you're doing what you're doing. Dolly was just on autopilot and went with the wind. The first person to get her to say a name was the name she decided to go with. But Dolly also didn't think Eliza was a strong player and kind of wanted Eliza out too, and so when the word got back to Eliza that Dolly said her name, Eliza wasn't too happy. Kind of like when Trish appealed to Cass at the Merge in Cagayan, the older women appealed to Eliza to vote out Dolly and bring Eliza into the majority. Dolly was clearly aligned with nobody and everybody, and in the end it cost her as she went from being in the best position in the game to being out the door on the same day.
It's Amy and me and Scout and Leanne. The only one we have to worry about is Dolly. Dolly's gonna be she's the pivot person in the middle. I think she's in, but you never know.
Originally we had Dolly secure, but I think being as sweet as Dolly is, she, kind of switched back and felt guilty.
Yeah, my head is completely spinning. And I'm afraid I'm at this point because I don't want to make the wrong choice. It's a cluster. Cluster, you know what. I know I can vote for Leanne or Liza either way.
Dolly told me that she was definitely going to vote for Leanne. I nearly dropped my teeth. That just...
But it's kind of turned into this Dolly, Julie, and me like running the whole thing. I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all.
Dolly's playing both sides. Dolly's hardcore playing. And I mean, maybe we should just vote for her. Honest to God. They would go for it?
Yes.
I think I'm getting along almost too well with everyone, and it's kind of becoming a problem for me because I feel kind of like Dolly in the middle. 4 people want to vote one way, and 4 people want to vote another way, and I'm kind of the deciding factor tonight.
Second person voted out of Survivor Vanuatu.
what happens when a strategy to get someone out by throwing a challenge is flipped on its head? Well, many fans think of Drew Christie from season 29, but in this case, I'm actually talking about Burton from season 7, Pearl Islands. One of the original botched challenge throws in the history of this show, Burton decided he wanted to throw the upcoming tribal immunity challenge to vote Krista out. She is a weak link and not in his alliance, and why not? She's basically on the other tribe for all he's concerned. So Burton's alliance is in on the plan, and then he approaches Rupert to join him. Rupert, the lovable tie-dye pirate, however, hates this idea. It's an unnecessary risk. Rupert then had a bright idea. He's gonna let Burton throw the challenge not to vote out Krista, but to vote out Burton. The challenge gets successfully thrown, and unfortunately for Rupert, a new twist in this episode arises where he's kidnapped by the other tribe and doesn't get to go to tribal council. On the flip side, fortunately, Rupert has a strong enough alliance to where Burton can still look like a fool for overplaying his hand so early in the game. Sandra, Krista, and Trish decide to stick to the plan and vote Burton out. Meanwhile, Burton, Michelle, and Sean want to vote Krista out, and then, of course, we have Fairplay, drunk off his ass from that musty alcohol in the pirate chest and sitting pretty in the middle. Fairplay is kind of like the Dolly of his tribe, and that is not a comparison I ever thought I would make. But yeah, Burton's bright idea to throw the challenge came back to bite him as Fairplay went against him and voted him out. Walk the plank, Bert. I hope one day you get a second chance.
As soon as there's a merge, the strongest people are going to be the first people to go. I know right now Rupert and myself are the biggest threats in our tribe.
At some point, we should lose.
When Bert comes to me and says, we're going to get rid of some of our drakes, as soon as he said that, I wanted to smack him and say, you know, traitor. If this was a pirate culture, he'd already be dead.
Obviously, it's a strong physical battle, and your two of your strongest guys chose to sit out. Why come?
My choice.
Wasn't your choice.
John claims he's fully on board, and I've got to be honest, all the actions and all the things that John has said have been very consistent over the past week about getting Krista off.
I am so stoked to go to tribal council. I am stoked. I want to see it. I can't wait. I think it's going to be awesome. Ric Flair is voted off the island. I'm having a blast. It's even more fun than I imagined. I'm on Paradise, and I'm a freaking puppet master. That's all I can ask for.
John, give me the state of affairs for this tribe.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Happy tribe.
Are you loaded?
Yeah.
First member of the Drake tribe voted out. Burton.
But let's save the first for last. It might not be, but I guess it's all a matter of how you look at the destruction. Either way, it's the last in the video, and I'm talking about Mitchell from season 2, The Australian Outback. In episode 4, where we see the first ever change of power in Survivor when the majority of a tribe is usurped by the minority, and Mitchell goes from being on top to being voted out in one swift blow. And he easily could have prevented it. This is a bit more of a complicated vote, especially for early Survivor, but basically Tina was on the bottom of a 5-person alliance and felt like her days were numbered. The alliance of 5 was created by Mitchell, and so Tina wanted to put herself higher in the pecking order, so she recruited Keith, the guy on the bottom of this 6-person tribe, and then she needed one more person to help her force a tie vote at tribal council. Tina wanted to vote Jerry out as Jerry had 2 votes cast against her in the previous tribal councils, which meant, in the event of a tie, Jerry would always go home because the alliance Tina was in was voting for Keith. So it would be 3 votes Keith, 3 votes Jerry, and Jerry goes in the tiebreaker as Keith had 0 previous votes cast against him. That was how the tiebreaker used to work in the early days of the show. But here's the kicker. The first person Tina approached to be her 3rd in the alliance wasn't Colby. It was Mitchell. She went to Mitchell and asked him to be in the new alliance with her, and he turned her down. Knowing full well Tina was turning on the alliance, Mitchell rejected Tina's deal to keep the tribe strong and create a new majority, and instead opted to stick with his original alliance. The problem was that Jerry had 2 votes against her and Mitchell had 1, whereas Tina and Keith and Colby and Amber all had 0. So if any one of them flipped, Mitchell would easily be in a lot of trouble. And that's exactly what happened. After approaching Mitchell, Tina approached Colby, proposed the same deal. Keep the tribe strong, join her and Keith in the new majority. And Colby took the deal. Tina, Colby, and Keith became the new power players, and guess what? They were also the final 3 players of the season. Had Mitchell said yes to Tina's offer, just imagine where Survivor goes from there. Knowing Mitchell straight up refused the offer, Tina turned the tables on him and voted him out later that night in a tiebreaker vote, and the rest is history.
You have 4 or 5 young people playing. You know, they've got so much chemistry that it is almost second nature just to woo, just immediately gravitate towards one another. And it makes me feel kind of like an outsider, which I am an outsider at this point. If I could get Colby, that would be 2 of us. That would be the only chance that I would have to make it. At this point, I don't have anything to lose.
The powers that be have predetermined long ago the pecking order here and also the elimination order, and Keith is up.
The only way it would work is if it would be 3 and 3, and then you and me with the most votes. I'd be gone.
Jerry's scared. She's worried that Keith and Tina and I are going to join together and mastermind a backdoor move to get rid of her. By far is going to be the toughest council for me because I don't agree with the order in which the union is voting.
This was not my original intended vote. However, on the way here to Tribal Council, a new scheme was developed. So in the spirit of the Olympics, let the games begin.
And those are 5 times Survivor players destroyed their own game. 4.0. Let me know what you think about these 5 moments and of any other destructions I could talk about or you want me to talk about in the future. A huge thank you to my patrons for riding the fence with me into Ponderosa. No, we're going to the final 3, all of us. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to count your allies before you throw the next challenge on your way out. Make sure they're not drinking too much of that rum. And I will see you in the next one. Once I say we stick to the plan.
My plan was basically deciding between keeping Baylor around or Jacqueline around. Trusting 2 family members in a situation where I could be the outsider just seemed like a really dangerous thing. I can get rid of a couple but not be the main threat. It's either making a big move today, getting rid of Baylor or Missy, and risking losing it all and not making final 3, or kind of playing it safe and vote out Jacqueline.
It's an amazing plan, but it has to be stuck to.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
Idols are more fun when you play them for somebody else. Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for? I'm playing this for Jack.
13th person voted out and the 7th member of our jury, Baylor.